This was sent to me by a listener. You've heard of the New York Times.
Yes.
That is a big newspaper that is more or less supposedly the bottom line when it comes to reporting in this country.
Paper of record.
And
all the news that's fit to print.
And the Daily is their daily podcast. Now, when this was flagged for me, I'm like, that's not really possible. I mean, we have been reporting on this program for about a week. I mean, it's not like we did that much reporting. I saw a clip from Tablet magazine. We chased it down to make sure that it was real, wasn't made up.
From 2014?
From 2014, that outlined how the tunnel that exists under the Al-Shifa hospital was built by the Israelis. Listen to this.
To the question that we started this conversation with, the question of whether there is proof of the Israeli claim that there is a command center under the hospital, there is more evidence, but it does still seem to stop short of conclusive proof, right?
That's right. Lots of intriguing evidence is coming out. But from a journalistic point of view, if this was a New York Times investigation, our editors would say to us, go back and gather more evidence. This is not the conclusive slam dunk that you're saying that it is. And indeed, that is what our editors are saying right now. We're still saying that this stops short, so far, of conclusive proof of a military command center underneath the hospital.
But is a tunnel with a big metal door that goes down deep into the earth not pretty damning of Hamas, though? I mean, why would there be a tunnel under a hospital at all?
That's a very good question, and one that we're all asking.
Well, here, let me help you on that answer. Now, listen, I want to make it clear. It's quite possible that Hamas was using this tunnel as a command center. I don't know. I mean, there's absolutely no way for me to know. All we know is that there's no evidence that they were using it this way. But the innuendo that this...
Why would they?
Ironclad door.
Why would there be a metal door? Why would there be a tunnel under a hospital? Who in the world would be so insane to do something like that? I mean, because this is what's been deployed, right? It's not even that the command center means anything.
There's anything in there.
Nobody's made the explicit argument that somehow this is the sort of the nerve center of all of these incredible sort of strategic and tactical maneuvers that Hamas is doing. I mean, let's be clear. Regardless of how you want to classify this militant organization, this is not like a super high-tech, sophisticated military operation, at least in terms of technology, command and control, because Israel has the ability to monitor all of that.
And by the way, we know, just based on the technology of the rockets that they have, especially in comparison to the Air Force, the Navy, the precision-guided missiles that Israel possesses, it's ridiculous. And you can see that, by the way, historically in the death counts, if you want to talk about who's more sophisticated in this instance.
But my point is that when people deploy this thing of who would build a command center under a hospital, it's not that we need to get, it's not that this thing needs to be knocked out because it's going to completely shut down Hamas's ability to operate. No, it is an attempt to create a moral status for people who would build a command center under a hospital. Well, in fact, it was not Hamas that built this. And it's not just that Tablet magazine. Here is Christiane Amanpour interviewing former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, who was also a general in the military.
Minister, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Can I just start by asking you what is your view of whether your government, your military, has done a good enough job of proving their claim that there was a major command center and bunker under Al-Shifa?
It's already known for many years that they have in the bunkers that originally was built by Israeli constructors underneath Shifa were used as a command post of the Hamas and a kind of a junction of several tunnels. Part of the system. I don't know to say to what extent it is a major. It's probably not the only kind of command post. Several others are under other hospitals or in other sensitive places, but it's for sure had been used by Hamas even during this conflict.
Well, when you say it was built by Israeli engineers, did you misspeak?
No, decades ago we were running the place. So we held them. It was many decades ago, probably 4 decades ago, that we helped them to build these bunkers in order to enable more space for the operation of the hospital within the very limited size of this compound.
Okay. All right. Well, that's sort of thrown me a little bit. So these were there for a long, long time, but you're claiming, or they're claiming, that they're used as a major command center. Anyway, the fact of the matter is that as yet,
Okay. Now, the reason why this throws her off so much is because this narrative, and Barak even admits here, well, I would, command center, that may be a little
Which is now in the South.
It may be.
Now they say it's in the South, where they told Gazans to flee, by the way.
Partial command center. That's more like it. But the reason why Amanpour is so thrown off here is because so much of this narrative has been what kind is human shields. Right? They use human shields. What's evidence of them using human shields? They literally built a bunker under a hospital. Who would do this?
Savages.
Who would look at a hospital and say, this is a good place for a bunker?
Savages.
And so this is instead what it turns out to be is a pre-existing underground facility. And I still even question, wait a second. You built a bunker underground for more room for the hospital. I'm even questioning why the Israelis did it. But let's just stipulate for a moment that they actually built it because they needed more space.
Or put it aside, say they understand there's violence happening. There are underground tunnels and facilities in many Western hospitals and other areas of the country where it's a place to shelter or a bomb shelter or some place to store extra supplies. These kinds of facilities often have submerged areas, right, and tunnels to get around in case of emergency. It's just but to paint it as nefarious obviously has so many racist implications.
It could be used in that way.
Sure.
But again, the bottom line is that the reason why Amanpour was so literally thrown off by that is that the most important part of this narrative has never been that there's a key command center there, that if we can only knock this out, we're going to debilitate Hamas's ability to operate. No, it has always been a way of showing the moral character and the dynamic of using people as civilians as a shield to justify the continued killing of civilians. That's it. And that'll probably be the last time Barak's on TV, sent out by the Israeli communication, whoever it is.
Yeah.
What kind of preparation does Amanpour do for whatever salary she's pulling from CNN? How do you?
That's the question.
To be honest with you, that's that. What you're witnessing is, the failure of. I mean, there is. The failure of sort of the production staff there. I mean, she's not, at this point, she's not going to do that. But the idea that there's not even a producer in there or that anybody would even raise this possibility, I mean, it's fascinating. And it also gives you an indication of, I don't know where it was on Twitter that I, saw first saw it. And I saw it multiple times, the tablet story. But it also gives you a notion of who the voices are that they're listening to.
Who she's listening
places.
to. And she's one of the most decorated journalists covering foreign affairs in the United States in like my lifetime. And she doesn't have that kind of awareness.
Well, I'm more curious about the New York Times.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. By the way, Patrick Kingsley, that's his name. He is the Jerusalem bureau chief for the New York Times. And he doesn't know. He doesn't know when he goes on the Daily.
Called the Gaza's Notebook. I mean, I don't understand
unreal.
Why there was nobody there who found that out.
And it just goes to show how effective the Israeli government has been at completely crafting the narrative for decades at this point.
Totally.
Because all of the sources for these traditional mainstream reporters, they're going back to those same people and they're seeing it kind of crumble in front of them. And it's like we are living in two different realities and the mainstream press is catching up, but they're many, many decades behind.